So this is the Antares 44GS. This is touted as the world's best liveaboard catamaran. Let's go and have a look and see if it lives up to its awesome reputation. So let's step on board this Antares 44 and see what we think of the helm.
Alright, so this is the helm of the Antares 44GS. There's a bit of a jump up to the seat, but there is a little footrest. So for shorter people like me, that's really handy. I love this helm position. It is so well enclosed and it is part of the cockpit. You're not separated from the cockpit, you're very much part of the cockpit, which is really nice. Everything is here, all of your controls are right here, including your wheel of course and the thruster, all of your other controls and everything. So this is a perfect place to sit and do your watch from. The screen in front of you is actually a hard screen with windscreen wipers, which is amazing. So when it is raining, you're not compromising on visibility. That is something that we have found several times with our enclosure, our cockpit enclosure. So when it's raining, we basically can't see anything, particularly at night. So the visibility is really poor. That completely obviates that problem, which is fantastic. You've got great ventilation here, you've got a huge opening hatch above and the same on the other side, so really nice ventilation coming into the cockpit, which is great, very important for me. And I'm just really enjoying this helm position. All the lines, I'm just looking around, the winches aren't within immediate reach of me right now. So the main winch, which is a big electric winch, is just here. And then the other winches are around the cockpit. So some of the catamarans that we've seen so far, almost all the lines run back to the helm position. That isn't the case here. You have to move around the boat in order to get to the lines. But you know, that's not a problem. Very happy.
So this is the foredeck of the Antares 44. Apologies for the sunglasses, it is super bright here. One thing I would say is that these decks are super wide. The hatches, while they aren't flush, they are beveled. So there's not as much of a tripping hazard or a toe stubbing hazard as I kind of would worry about. Another thing that's really good to notice here is that the handrails, we always talk about handrails and grab rails, these are the first handrails that actually curve and go all around the cabin top. So you have full amount of grip and you have a full amount of ability to stabilize yourself all the way around until you are at the mast. I think that's a really good safety feature, so I'm super happy with that. In addition to that, looking at things like the bowsprit and the way that this is entirely set up, it is a very, very sturdy looking boat, and everything does look to me to be over-engineered, so that's a big tick box. Super happy with that.
Another thing I'll say is that the guardrails come up really high.
Yes, these guardrails are high. I think they're probably about 30% higher than the guardrails on Ruby Rose. Yeah. So again, I wonder if you can specify these as solid rails, but in this, yeah, they are, and they're very, it feels a very secure space to be, so I'm pretty happy with that as well. With my only really minor gripe being that there's a central winch and you cannot control all the lines from the helm position. This is a fantastic boat. If you talk to Beth, she says quite clearly that most owners opt for placing the life raft on the transom. Again, a fantastic idea. This boat is absolutely hard to fault, and in category 1 we are happy to award the Antares 44GS a perfect 10 out of 10. Now on to my favourite category, the build quality, and like a rat up a drain, the first thing I do is dive into the engine compartment. Now the Antares 44 is almost unique amongst catamarans is that the engines are centrally mounted. That means that you access them from inside the boat. They also have shaft drives. This allows the propellers to be skegged and protected. It is a fantastic arrangement. I would love to see more catamarans doing this. Opening a second floor panel again inside the boat gives you full access to all the filtration systems. Again, for access and maintenance, this is going to be a really good and safe system. Moving on to the obvious electrical panel and systems of the Antares 44GS, everything is well labelled. I do like to see a big and extensive control panel. However, this is further augmented. If you look inside and behind the units, you can see the level of care and attention that has gone into making sure that everything is well set out and well labelled. This is a sort of maintenance that I like to see, and this will make for very, very easy diagnosis of potential electrical problems. Now, the finish of the woodwork and the joinery is fantastic, and I think I summed it up very well on the day. Do you know what this reminds me of?
What?
Our boat. It's got the same, same catches, same woodwork. So the finish is durable and beautiful. You can see that this is going to last the duration if you are a full-time liveaboard or doing an extensive circumnavigation or ocean crossing. Overall, the level of craftsmanship on this Antares 44 is superb. It is a testament to the long history that Antares have of producing fantastic boats back from when they were PDQ and now to Antares. Another perfect 10, 20 out of 20 so far. Well done, Antares. And now the obligatory 20-second pause while we showboat and tell you all the things coming up. As you may know, we were at the Annapolis Boat Show. What an amazing time we have, but we have so many more reviews to show you. We have all the top catamaran brands and we are going to give you the real reviews on all of them. So please feel free to subscribe. There is a little button down there. Click that and you will never miss an episode. Thanks very much.
Let's start this very important category with a look at the cockpit, which is arguably the most important space on your boat. Now, I have to say that as fantastic as the Antares catamarans are overall, their cockpit is definitely not my favorite feature. I find this a really awkward space. Those curved settees, that big table right in the middle of the living space, and also those two upright seating areas just at the stern there. I just don't see this as a particularly practical space. I don't see how you could comfortably lounge on those settees with your back resting up against something and your legs stretched out in front of you. So this is by far, in my opinion, the weakest part of this boat. And if you look at any other catamaran in the 45-foot range, you'll see far, far more superior cockpits. That all being said, this is a very safe cockpit. You could be very comfortable in the middle of this cockpit in any kind of sea conditions and you would be protected and safe, so that is a major plus. Let's move into the interior now and take a look at the galley. Now, Antares do galley down, which is relatively unusual, but I think it works extremely well in this situation. The galley is really large, far bigger than any other galley you'll probably see in this size range. It's got plenty of storage, plenty of bench space, and is very beautiful as well. So if you're not a fan of galley down, I encourage you to come on to the Antares because I suspect you might change your mind. Now let's take a look and see what I had to say on the day. So this is the saloon, and this, once again, is a really cozy area. What Antares do that I don't think I've seen in any other catamaran is that they have such a sense of, it feels like a very traditional style in here. The wood is beautiful, it's very homey, it's very cozy, it's very warm, and I think that this would appeal to people who are coming from monohulls because monohulls often use a lot of wood in their interior design, and this kind of is reminiscent of that. We really like it. It appeals to our style hugely, so we love that. From a more kind of practical point of view, the saloon is a L-shaped settee, so that there's plenty of seating, and there's actually now in the new Antares model there is another sofa that Nick is sitting on right now, which I really like, because one of my concerns with the old setup that just had this L-shaped settee was that, and it sounds maybe a little bit silly, but when you're living on a boat you kind of get into your own habits, and Nick and I like to kind of really spread ourselves out in the evening, read a book or maybe watch something on television, and that would kind of be awkward here because like I might sit here with my feet up, but I don't really have anything to rest against, but then Nick, you know, kind of is more designed just to sit at the table like this, but now you've got that extra settee where Nick is, you've got that extra option. So I really like that. So the table also converts into a coffee table, so you can lower it as well, and in case you don't want it to be up so high. And I think that we would use that setup fairly often. And once again, the saloon is connected to all parts of the boat. You have a direct connection to the cockpit, to the galley, to the helm station, and to the person actually at the helm, because I can see the helm seat from here through a window that actually slides open. So everything is really well connected. You can talk to everyone. So this is the nav station, and this is a really comfortable spot as well. I can imagine on long night watch I could just kind of sit up here with my feet up and just watch the world go by, and you've still got really good visibility pretty much 360. There's a bit of a blind spot behind you, but nothing that you can't deal with pretty easily. So you've got these huge windows all over, and you've got 3 opening hatches in the ceiling as well. So I feel like at anchor you would have pretty good ventilation. I normally like to see some opening hatches that go forward, because I feel like that's the best way of catching that breeze when you're at anchor. So that would be the only criticism that I have of this particular space, is that I would really like to have some nice forward opening hatches. Leaving the galley, which is just behind me, you actually come, when you're walking forward, you actually come into the guest cabin. So the guests will be staying right next to the galley, which is nice if they want a midnight snack, I guess. And then they have an athwartship berth, which is just behind me here. So historically I've been a little bit skeptical about this kind of setup. However, you know, we stayed in a berth exactly like this when we were sailing with Nikki and Jason from Gone with the Winds, and we loved it. It was forward, and so you get all that breeze when you are at anchor. With the aft berth, sometimes you don't get the breeze because the hatches open up into the cockpit. But here you've got 2 opening hatches, one above and one to the side. And as you can see, there's a breeze coming in sideways at the moment. And so we really liked it. And yeah, it's relatively spacious. I think, I'm not sure exactly the dimensions. It looks like a kind of like a double. So it's not the biggest berth of all time, but there is a larger berth in the aft cabin, which I'm going to take you to right now. So there's 2 guest cabins. We've just seen the first one, and this is the second. This is an aft cabin, and this is a fantastic berth. Again, it's a thwartship, so it's a little bit different from normal, but it's perfectly spacious. There are no less than 5 opening hatches in here. So I cannot see any scenario where you would need to run the air conditioning, where you wouldn't be perfectly cool at anchor. You can open 5 hatches in your guest cabin. I think that is fantastic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
One issue with the Antares is the guest shower room situation. The shower room itself is fine. It's got a separate shower stall now, which is an improvement upon the older models. However, there is still the issue of the shower room only being accessible through the forward cabin. So any guests staying in the aft guest cabin would probably have to use the owner's shower room. Speaking of the owner's hull, let's go and take a look at that now. First, we'll take a look at the owner's cabin, which is very similar to the guest cabin. It is not an island berth, which is maybe a slight issue and something that could be improved upon. However, that does give you that little bedside table with the drawers underneath. So it's not all bad news.
So here we are in the main cabin, and this is exactly the same as the other aft cabin, except the bed is in the other direction. I don't know what this direction's called, but it kind of is in the more typical direction of a berth. You still have those 5 opening hatches, and you also have a television screen. I'm not sure how often we would use that. I'll show you here. Right there. So we can watch a bit of telly while having our morning coffee. And this berth is so light filled, and there's 5 opening hatches, which I know I've already said, but I just can't get over. I mean, that is just fantastic. I would almost buy this boat just for all the opening hatches, because I love that.
Walking forward now, you can see so much storage in the owner's hull. That is really important for liveaboard cruises. You need space to put all of your things. Moving towards the shower room itself now, it's got everything you need: a separate shower stool, a toilet inside the shower room, and obviously the sink and mirror and some storage. All I would say is that this is a slightly more cramped shower room than more modern catamarans in the 45-foot range. So that might be a slight issue. As I said, generally speaking, you do get a little bit more space in this in a non-performance catamaran of this size. However, again, perfectly practical, and once again, the quality of the finish is top notch. You also get the 2 opening hatches, which gives you really good ventilation in the shower room. So how are we going to score this very important category? This was a tough one for me. On the one hand, the cockpit really irritated me. On the other hand, that galley is just fabulous, and the ventilation in the cabins is really fantastic. We're going to go for a 7 out of 10.
Category 4 sees us looking at statistics for the Antares 44GS. She is exactly 44 feet in length. She has a beam of 21'9", a draft of 4 feet and a displacement of 10.2 tons. Now don't forget that draft has protected skegs underneath those propellers. That's a fantastic thing. Now, one thing to note here, sail area 56 meters square for the main and 23 for the self-tacking jib. Add the optional Jenica to that and you have 44 square meters. That's quite a large sail area, but with a boat of this size, you are not going to get sparkling speeds. So with an ICW compliant rig and that sail area coupled with that hull length, we are going to award the Antares 44 a 4 out of 10 for performance. Now, Category 5 sees us looking at the Antares and its value for money. Bear in mind these currency conversions are accurate as of the 1st of November and do not include delivery or local taxes. Now, the base price of the Antares 44GS is $950,000 US. That's 862,000 euros and 743,000 pounds. Antares have a very, very useful website where you can spec the boat yourself, and realistically, there's not that much more to add. So our final total was 980,000 US dollars. That's 766,000 British pounds or 890,000 euros. Now, my only issue here is that you are spending $1 million on a 44-foot boat. Now, while the boat is solidly built, it doesn't have that much innovation. I am not overly happy with the way the cockpit is laid out, and there are a few other niggles. But when it comes to value for money, I don't believe that this actually presents the best value for money. So we're going to award the Antares 44GS a 3 out of 10.
So that was the Antares 44GS, the new incarnation of the Antares, which is a model that has been around for a while. So as we do with all of these reviews, we will start with the good points first and then move on to any potential negatives. I am going to say thank you to Beth. We've known Beth for a few years, and so thank you for being so kind and showing us your boats. Anyway, without further ado, I am not going to do much speaking today because apparently I talk too much. So over to Therese, good points about the 44.
I think that there are many good points about the 44. Yep. I think that the build quality is fantastic.
Yep.
And they also do something that is becoming increasingly rarer in catamarans, which is to have real wood veneer and a real kind of boaty traditional feel.
Yep.
So that is, if you want that, then really I can't think of many options apart from the Antares. It really is unique, and it is an absolutely beautiful finish. It's just, it feels really lovely inside.
Yep.
The galley down is sometimes a little bit controversial. People get very upset about the idea of a galley down sometimes. I think it is fantastic. I really truly do. That galley, it is down, but it doesn't feel like you're kind of down in the hull. It's still so connected to all the different areas, and because the ceiling above you is so high, it feels still very spacious. And not only that, but you're benefiting from a lot of the length of the hull for the space for your galley. So you're getting so much storage space, so much bench space. There's not really any compromises to making that galley. You have everything that you need there.
Yep.
So I love the galley, and also the ventilation in the cabins is really fantastic. I feel like the ventilation in the saloon could be improved upon. I talked about that in the video, but in the cabins itself, then it's 5 opening hatches. You can't really beat that.
Yep.
So there, and the helm position was good as well. So there's a lot of good points.
So very briefly, the fact that they're shaft drives, absolutely fantastic. They are super well built, and if you are on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is for charter and 10 is for liveaboard and not for charter, this is like up there with a 10.
Yes.
It is firmly a liveaboard boat. There's no, you would be crazy to charter one of these.
Yes.
From my point of view, if I wanted to do a circumnavigation or some extended cruising in slightly difficult areas, as in, it wasn't like, sailing across the Sea of Abaco, Antares 44 would be very, very high on my list. So yeah, the plus points for the Antares, absolutely superb. Negatives, Therese?
Well, this is my difficulty with the Antares because it is not all perfect, and there are some there's no red lines, but there's enough compromises that make me feel like maybe the Antares isn't the perfect boat for us. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but we still need to think about that. But the cockpit is a real issue for me, and that it sounds maybe a little bit trivial, but I just cannot imagine living comfortably in that cockpit. You know, we spend so much time in a semi-recumbent position where we're kind of leaning back against something with our legs up, and our cockpit, our current cockpit, is perfect for that. We've got like two kind of straight settees, the traditional.
But let's talk about catamaran cockpits, because we live in a monohull at the moment.
Sure. Okay. Well, yes. Indeed, but our cockpit is very comfortable,
Yes,
so you don't want to be kind of making compromise, going to a catamaran and then having a less comfortable cockpit. But yes, exactly. I think the Antares is 44 foot, and you look at any other catamaran that I can think of around the kind of 43 to 45 foot range, and I can't think of another cockpit that has the same set of compromises.
But we read a lot about the cockpit, and they say that it's designed so that it can drain super quickly, but just about any other cockpit of any other catamaran we've reviewed could also drain super quickly if you were pooped, if you had a wave over the back of it. So that is it's a nothing burger, that, I'm afraid. Okay, so you don't like the cockpit. What else?
Well, do you like the cockpit?
No, I don't. But I'm going to try and keep this brief, as I said. No, I don't. I think let's go on with any other negatives, and then I can summarise very briefly.
Okay, so other negatives, I think that the price is very high. I don't know whether it's really worth just under $1 million. I think that they do offer a lot of features that other catamarans don't, so that drives the price up. Like the shaft drive, there's a reason why no other catamarans, or very few other catamarans, have shaft drives. It's because they're very expensive. So that is something that you pay for. That beautiful wood finish inside, you pay for that. And also all the other components that make this boat as high quality as it is. Obviously you pay for all of that. So I guess this is a decision that you have to make yourself. If you have the budget for an Antares, particularly a new one, so you're looking at just shy of $1 million US, do you want a 40-foot catamaran, or do you want a bigger catamaran, or do you want to save a little bit of money and have a different type of 44-foot catamaran? So that's the thing. It's a very expensive catamaran.
I think for what it is, I agree with you. So there's a few things that I agree with you on everything. Firstly, that cockpit, I don't like the design. I think it looks dated. I think it is a dated cockpit, and when we first saw the Antares 44 2 years ago, I still think, wow, this boat is amazing. It's an amazing
definitely the wow
boat.
Factor.
Since we've researched catamarans, it still has the wow factor in its complete solidity as a boat, but it's just everything inside it looks dated. And I do think that it's such a competitive market now, not just in production cats, but in the kind of niche markets, the kind of custom cats that are being built in that sort of price bracket. So you're looking, the performance cats, the Ultramares, the Sea Winds, but also the Mavericks. You can
get a 50-foot Neisner, a very beautiful boat, which we're yet to review, for around the same price.
Exactly.
And you've got 50-foot, very well built catamaran.
And the 44 is an older design. It is an older design, and it's older, and they probably haven't modified it that much. But it works. And I had huge hopes when I found out they were bringing out a GS over to supersede the 44. I'm like, this is going to address all the issues that we thought, you're almost there. And literally, it's like in a race where you look at other manufacturers just coming up behind you and going, actually, we're going to steal that. We're going to use those designs. And I just think that Grado Sur have taken their eye off the ball a little bit with this. And I'm sorry to be harsh on them, because Beth is lovely, but I just think they got a little bit lazy with their design, and they're trading on that reputation, and I don't think you can trade on reputation anymore.
I think the problem is that there is so much innovation, and the market is moving so quickly, and the people's tastes are moving on. And I don't know whether the Antares, as you say, Grado Sur, the company who build the boats, I don't know whether they're keeping up with market demand. I think that actually shows itself, and this is just my own theory, but historically Antares, in the used market, used Antares catamarans have been snapped up very quickly. It's been, you know, you put an Antares on the market and they're sold very, very quickly. That's been one reason why Antares cats have been considered a relatively good investment, because they apparently hold their value very well because they're in such high demand. But I have been keeping a very close eye on the used Antares market over the past.
Only because it's something we actually would consider.
Absolutely, only because we love them so much. Particularly over the past 12 months, and there are boats on the market still that have been on the market for over 12 months now.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that the demand for used Antares catamarans is the same as it used to be.
Agreed.
And I think that's because they're very expensive, even on the used market, and they don't offer what people want now from a catamaran, which is, you know, a slightly different design, a bit more modern, a bit more space inside. I mean, you look at the master hull, for example, that forward shower room, and it's so small and cramped, and you know, you've got the toilet there, you have to kind of move around the toilet, and you look at any other 45-foot catamaran on the market, and you do not have to make those compromises.
Well, there's a 44, the Maverick 44's got a bath.
Indeed.
In the same size catamaran.
Exactly.
And it's $300,000 less.
So I think that, you know, Antares owners are a very passionate bunch.
Of course they are, and we're going to get a load of blowback over this.
Well, I don't know about blowback, but I really want to hear from them, because we've been in touch with quite a few Antares owners, and they are adamant that the Antares is the only catamaran that they would ever consider. So I encourage anyone watching this, whether you agree with what we're saying or not, or maybe you disagree with some of it, then please leave a comment down below, because this is a fantastic catamaran, and I think it is worthy of discussion, because
I think if Grado got their finger out and modernised the look of it and addressed everything that we have come up with, I think it would be unbeatable. I just think they need to kind of not keep relying on their reputation, because there are some hungry brands out there that are snapping up all the innovations. We've seen the innovations on the Balance 526 being picked up by another company, and they're all looking at things going, actually that's good, I'm going to take that, I'm going to take that, and Grado's still like, nah, this is good.
Yeah, we're sticking with what we've got.
And you know, fair enough, it may work in the long term. For us, I think it's this is not an era and a time to be sitting on your laurels, because you know, really, since we started looking at catamarans 2.5 years ago, things have changed. You know, XS have got a catamaran coming out, Alubat have got a catamaran coming out, and you know, Uchima have got new models coming out. They've all got all these things,
and this is the thing, we've spoken to so many manufacturers. Almost everyone is working so hard to get a piece of this ever-growing market, and it's becoming huge. And all these other catamaran manufacturers have other designs, either just improvements on their current model, or you know, a different model entirely that they are working on, and that they're trying to get to market as soon as possible. And I don't think that Grado are doing any of that, to my knowledge.
You snooze, you lose. Anyway, on that note, listen, you may disagree with us, you may agree with us. Either way, there is a huge voting system down there. It is massive. We have almost 2,000 votes now. So it is the biggest set of reviews on the market. And if you think, hang on, you're biased, or Nick, you don't know what you're talking about, or Teresa, you're beautiful, but yet you're misguided. Leave your vote down below, because when we come to compile the final list of which is the best catamaran, it is your votes that we are going to choose. Aside from that, we have more reviews coming up. There are lots to see from Annapolis, as well as the 15 or so reviews we already have out. So we'll be back soon. Thank you so much for watching this episode. Goodbye.